Hey guys, welcome to the first video for the Kaiju Closet. I made this YouTube channel because I wanted to start showing my expression for Godzilla that I never really could. So I hope y'all stick around and enjoy the content that's coming your way. Thanks. So for my first video, I wanted to talk about SH Monster Arts versus Hiya Toys. I feel like that's been a pretty big aspect in the articulated figures segment of the community. And I feel like it's, how do I put it? Kind of almost as you have to pick a side. And I don't necessarily like that because I think as collectors, or, Godzilla collectors at least, we should enjoy the products we're being given. I don't necessarily think we should make it about who's better, I feel like both companies produce solid pieces at times, and then I feel like there's sometimes where the company kind of misses the mark, whether it's SH or Hiya. Both are guilty of this. For example, I wanted to show you, I have the Hiya 2014 Godzilla, and while yes, it is, overall I'd rate it a solid figure, but it does have its shortcomings. One of them being the articulation is kind of limited. The paint apps are not really the best. If I can show you here on the face, it's kind of a sloppy mess when you start looking at this stuff up close. But like I said, every figure might have its issue. But, you take a look at SH Monster Arts on the other hand, this figure's not perfect at all by any means. It has its flaws. Paint's kind of sloppy, but, for my copy at least of the 2004, it seems like it falls apart, like I just showed. And I don't have to put much pressure on it at all to get these joints to come out. I'll just barely move this tail to, let's say get a dynamic pose. See, oh, right there is really good. Oh, and there it comes out. Now, I know not every figure is like this, and you have to keep in mind other people's copies may not have these issues. You may just be the unlucky one who got that. I know that's true in my case for some of these figures. I've talked with people and they have issues that I don't have, whether it's paint or articulation joints coming out. It just kind of varies. But I don't necessarily think we should be saying, well, one brand is better than the other or one brand is worse than the other for X, Y, and Z. I think as a community, we should just band together and offer insights of where the bar was missed and how we can improve it next time. For example, anyone who's been following the scene, when Hiya Toys first revealed their their 2024 Evolved Godzilla, it was a solid piece from the prototype images, but it definitely begged for more. And I give them applause for they pretty much redesigned kind of the whole figure, and it took a lot longer to get, I will admit, but it was far better than if we had just been okay with what they were going to give us, and I applaud them for that. I really appreciate the effort and the time and the understanding of, hey, this product is not as good as it could be. What can we do to make it better for the consumer's part? Now, I will admit, this figure does have, some shortcomings. For example, the scaling is off from what they said. Let's see here if I can get them to sit. So the Hiya line normally is in the 7-inch range. Here is my pre-evolved Godzilla from the 2024 film from Hiya Toys. And you can kind of see it's not as tall. So that is an issue for me whenever you told me, it was going to be a certain height. But I get it. Now, in the new Heat Ray version of the evolved Godzilla, supposedly they had fixed the proportions and the height. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, not really a huge problem, but it is annoying. Just to prove, Hiya's not a perfect company. They make mistakes, like any company. But I give them this. Every figure, for the most part, that they have revealed that we had a problem with, they're pretty good about taking our feedback and changing it. For example, the Mechagodzilla 2 or Mechagodzilla from the 1993 film, they changed the entire figure because the fans just weren't happy with how it looked. I can go on, with Godzilla 2002 from the Kiru movie. They changed how he looked too. Not only did they change it once, but when they released the solicitation for the Heat Ray with the new changes, people were still, and I'll admit I was one of them, people were still not happy with how the face and the head and neck looked. It just looked off. It didn't really look that good. And we seen at the 2025 Wonderfest, they changed it. And it looks pretty good now. So I applaud Hiya for actually listening to the fans and the consumers. And as a business, I think you should listen to your consumers, because ultimately, if you quit listening to them, they'll just quit buying. And that's not any company. That's not what they want to do at all. But I feel like some companies don't listen to their consumers at all, and the products just become lackluster and effortless. And by no means am I saying SH Monster Arts is a bad company either. I love some of their figures that they have put out over the years as well. One of my favorites of theirs is Godzilla 72. This thing is absolutely solid. Mine copy at least, the paint is really good. The articulation and joint stiffness is really good. No joints really pop out on this copy at all. I have no issues with it whatsoever. And I can get some really cool shots. But, that's just kind of where I'm going. No company's perfect, but yet we shouldn't treat other companies worse that are new to the game just because we've had SH Monster Arts around forever. I've been collecting them ever since they came out in, I think it was 2011, 2010 maybe? Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. But I have probably 30 to 35 SH Monster Arts figures, and I'd love to review them all. If that's something that some people would be interested in watching, I'd love to do it. Same with Hiya. I've started collecting them recently, and I have probably about 7, I guess, Hiya figures. But we have a whole lot of Hiya figures on the way, so there won't be any shortages of that. But I guess where I'm trying to go is, I don't think as a community we should be against each other for liking one brand or the other. And it's totally okay to like Hiya or SH Monster Arts more than the other if that's your taste. My all-time favorite figure that I have is definitely the Hiya Toys 1991 Hokkaido Godzilla. This figure just checks all the boxes that I have for it. The articulation is great. The detail is great. the paint job is great, and just its overall presence is astonishing. I don't have really any problems with this figure whatsoever. Now, one thing that I will admit is when it first came out, and the original eyes on the original head were kind of wonky. They weren't the best. But, and to show that Hiya listens, they gave everybody a new head for free. And it had better painted eyes. You don't really get that a lot these days out of companies. I mean, I could be wrong, but I certainly don't remember a time where SH Monster Arts did that for one of their figures. Now, I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me. But I had purchased the original Ghidorah from SH Monster Arts back when it first came out. And for those of you who remember, the wings on that figure were just so dangerous to mess with because of how easy they could break. And so I seen tons of people on the internet, saying, don't be careful when you move the wings, or try not to move the wings much because they're very fragile, and the mechanism that they built them with is very easy to break, and it's, not something you want to hear on a expensive figure. I mean, I can't remember how much I paid for that when I first bought it. I'm sure it was maybe $180 range if I had to take a guess. And, anyway, it's just a little pet peeve of mine. But I do applaud Hiya for all their, I feel like they've really started to set the bar higher for figure making when it comes to making and releasing these products. Now, like I said before, I'm not saying that you're wrong if you like SH Monster Arts. Please do not get the two mixed up. I like SH Monster Arts just as much as I've always liked them when I first started collecting them. I enjoy some of their products very much. For example, I love SH Monster Arts' 2024 Evolved Godzilla. The articulation that this thing has is absolutely crazy. To be able to recreate the sleeping scene when Godzilla is asleep in the Coliseum building, that's just awesome. The translucent spines is fantastic. It's great. Now, does this figure have problems? Yes, of course. But the way they also made the neck system on this guy, where you can actually have him turn around like he's looking at Kong at the pyramid scene, now that is cool. Let me get it in a little closer for y'all to see. But now that is cool. And that I applaud. That is a great breakthrough in figure making technology, and I love it. I think it's something more companies should look into, especially Hiya, and supposedly on their upgraded 24 heat ray version that they'll have a better neck system, because on the original copy, let me pull his head off here for y'all to see. Oops, piece fell. Grab that real quick, put all these here. You can see they didn't do too much. Yeah, it's pretty barren. It's just a simple peg and a ball at the end here. And they just kind of, masked it with these cover pieces. They just fit over it. And so, yeah, it's not going to have the best articulation by any mean. Let me get the pop back in here. So, yeah, he can't really look up very much or down, without breaking the sculpt, And trying to make him look back, it's, not too great. But, like I said, I'm a fan of improvement and giving constructive criticism that makes the figure better in the end. moving on to the latest Hiya release, we have the Heat Ray Godzilla 91. And I'm going to be honest, I love the figure. It's, pretty much the same figure as the one we got before. But there are some changes, some small changes. Some good and some bad in my opinion. So I'll start with the good first. The paint feels like it's much better. It really does. The, I guess, dry brushing you could say they used, it's a whole lot better on this second time around. And I prefer the paint on the toenails and fingernails over the original. It gives it, more of that bonish look, if you will. And it looks great. And if you haven't seen yet, the eyes have been tremendously upgraded. Now here is the upgraded head for Hokkaido 91, and it looks all right. Nothing to complain about too much there. But then if you look at the Heat Ray version, they really did improve it. And I have got to say, this is probably one of the best eyes on a Godzilla figure, in between Hiya and SH that I have seen. Like, this is just good stuff. It really is. I mean, mine's pretty good copy, so happy for that. And the translucent, really cool. I'm sure y'all have seen the pictures, people shining the lights through them. They're really cool. It looks great. Now, one thing that I will say that I don't like on the Heat Ray compared to my original release is it seems like it's a bit more, I want to say stiff, but I feel like stiff's not the right word. The articulation on it feels a little bit more limited. And one of my best, things that I can bring up about it is, for those of you who have the original, this lower piece right here, it's almost like it's a different material. It's real rubbery. It allows for a lot of movement in the legs and then the torso. It's really, really nice. And I love the fact that they made it a softer, I guess maybe plastic or rubber, whatever it is, because it really does work for the articulation point of view. Now, on the second copy for the Heat Ray, it's different. It's like they went back to the hard plastic, and it's not as soft and rubbery and free and movable for the legs. Like, the legs feel like they're harder to move. Now, like I said, I don't know if this is just my copy. Tell me what you guys are experiencing with this. This is, kind of a downgrade in my opinion. I prefer the much more soft rubber over the harder plastic. I like the idea of experimenting with different materials to allow for greater points of movement or, just general articulation overall. So that's kind of a downgrade in my opinion. But still a really solid release. I enjoy both of these figures. Like I said, the 91 is my favorite of the Heisei Godzilla suit-wise. So when I saw that Hiya was announcing that they are doing a Hokkaido suit figure, it blew me away. And I just couldn't wait until it came out. Now, SH Monster Arts also did a 91 figure. And I have that guy right here. This figure I enjoy and adore just as well. The articulation great. The paint is great on my copy. But it does kind of have some of those issues of, weak joints. See? And yeah, they're frustrating and they're easy to fix and just pop right back on. But when you're paying this much money for a figure, you really want it to meet that level of what you're expecting to get out of it. When you pay, and SH Monster Arts by no means are their figures cheap. When people are paying this much money for an action figure and it just falls apart when you barely touch it, it's kind of annoying, and it's a zonk, if you will. But by no means does it make the figure bad or, undesirable. I very much love my 91 SH Monster Arts. Now, keep in mind that these two guys are completely different suits in the movie. The SH Monster Arts version is, if I remember right, is it Shinjuku? The Shinjuku suit, which is used in the later part of the film to fight Mecha King Ghidorah. And the Hokkaido is in the earlier parts of the film when he fights normal Ghidorah. So, yeah, they're based upon different suits, so I'm not really judging them for, well, SH Monster Arts is not as accurate as Hokkaido, or Hokkaido's not as accurate as Shinjuku, because they're different suits, so I don't feel like that's a fair criticism. But I do feel that they're both great figures. I recommend getting both of them. I love both of mine. And that's really where I'm at between SH Monster Arts and Hiya. I'm really looking forward to getting my Hiya Godzilla 2000 from Mega Gears, and I'll be doing a review as soon as I get it. That figure looks phenomenal. It looks like they checked all the boxes on that, and I can't wait to get it and review it for y'all. So whether you're Hiya or SH Monster Arts, we just got to keep in mind, as a community, we just want the best figures possible. So constructive criticism, being reasonable, and just being, we can't let it get violent between each other. I've seen too much, squabbling online of people saying you're a SH Monster Arts fanboy or you're a Hiya glazer. That's just kind of a bunch of nonsense for me. I'd rather us just enjoy them, say what we like and don't like, and improve from there. I don't see a problem with liking both companies. They're both really great companies that make cool stuff. But yet, sometimes they don't, and they miss the mark. And that's okay, because we can always do better next time, tell them where they messed up, and see if they listen. So I think that's a pretty good stopping place for my first video. Y'all let me know what y'all think. If y'all want to see more reviews, I would love to review each figure individually, whether it's SH, Hiya. I have Bandai. I have a few X Pluses I would love to review. This is just the beginning, so y'all stay tuned for more. Really appreciate y'all for checking in. See y'all.